and welcome to Austin, Texas for round 6 of the FIA World Endurance Championship. And it's time for our LMGT3 preview show brought to you by Le Mans Ultimate, the official game of the World Endurance Championship. My name's Alexa Rendell. I'm joined by Sam Smith, and isn't this a magnificent setting for an LMGT3 race? We've just come off the back of Interlagos, where traffic was the challenge for some of our drivers, but feels a little bit different going into this weekend, perhaps.
A bit more wide open space here, isn't there? I mean, we're down at turn 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever you want to call it. There's so many corners ahead of us. Beautiful sweeps we can see here. Very reminiscent of the Maggots-Beckett's section at Silverstone. Yes, it's going to be a bit easier than Interlagos in terms of margin for error. There's a little bit more, less jeopardy, I would say, here than there was in Brazil, but it's still a ferocious challenge here. I think the traffic management is going to be a big part of this race, maybe not as much as Interlagos, but the GT3 cars, I think they will, prosper a bit more in this wide open space. But again, tyres are going to be critical here because the Goodyears don't have the experience that the Michelins had with the test that the Hypercars did a month ago. So there's still a lot of unknowns on the rubber front and how to use them. But yeah, I see this being possibly the closest LMGT3 proposition of a race of the season so far.
Like the sounds of that. And speaking of sound, you might be able to hear some seriously good Texas music going on in the background right now.
It's a city of music, isn't it? We just had Jeff Buckley serenading us, which I've never thought would happen in my career, but I'm not going to complain. It's a great place for a race, and I think
it's good fun.
Yeah, I think the GT3s are going to put on a really spectacular show on Sunday afternoon.
Well, actually, the one person I want to start off with is the return of a familiar face to many a WEC fan. Ben Keating will be here racing with us in Texas this weekend. A Texas local himself, I think he could hardly pass up the opportunity to be racing on his front doorstep. He'll be in one of the Proton Mustangs. They've been looking really promising. They've been making good progress. Surely if anyone can secure a podium, perhaps a win on debut in LMGT3, it would be Ben Keating.
But Ben Keating, it's his home track. He may be even sleeping in his own bed, who knows, which really does help a driver.
Bit of a novelty.
Sure. Yeah, but the one thing I found interesting is that previously Ben has sort of said, maybe not publicly, but sort of think privately, the GT3 car isn't his cup of tea, but obviously he's up for the challenge. We know our double world champion is up for the challenge, so I expect him to be, I expect him in qualifying to be right up there. Obviously it's a big ask with a new entity, with a Ford Mustang, but I think knowing Ben, he'll be at the forefront of qualifying. And with Mikkel Pedersen and Dennis Olsen in that number 88 Proton Ford Mustang, I think it could be a potential sort of nice little cameo surprise of the weekend come Sunday.
I certainly hope so. An American legend in an American car, what good fun. But speaking of, can you name the other 3 American drivers in the LMGT3 class?
Oh, put me on the spot
Go
now,
on,
Alexa.
I believe in you.
Oh, obviously we got Ryan Hardwick.
In the other Mustang.
In the Proton,
yep.
In the other Ford Mustang. And then the other 2 are interesting ones because Ian James and Simon Mann, who are the 3rd and 4th, if you want to look at it like that, to Keating and Hardwick. They are American, but they're kind of dual nationality as well. They're sort of UK, what do they call it?
That's a bit awkward.
Anglo stateside drivers. But yeah, let's call them.
We'll claim them. We'll claim them for this weekend.
Americans, y'all, for this weekend.
Well, actually, let's talk about Ian James. You bring him up there because I think Aston Martin are perhaps one of the most exciting prospects heading into this weekend. They're traditionally very successful around these American tracks, but also Heart of Racing in particular, an American team coming off the back of a podium in Interlagos, where frankly they could have been challenging for the win even more. If we don't see them on the podium this weekend, I think it'll be a major disappointment for the team and perhaps a surprise too.
Yeah, I think they're the ones to watch, certainly. Don't forget we got D-Station as well. But actually, just something about the Heart of Racing. They've been building up and bubbling up to a big result, and I think they would love to do that, obviously on their home turf here at COTA. Aston Martin's pedigree and heritage here at COTA is phenomenal. They've won 9 classes here in the races since 2012. I think it's 5 in the Pro category and 4 in the AM category. So a great wealth of success there. Obviously this is a different proposition with the GT3, but an Aston is due a big result. And they've got some nice solid results this season. The pace, Alex Ribeiro, Daniel Mancinelli and Ian James, I think, they could be leading the way this weekend easily.
Well, speaking of leading the way, we really ought to be talking about our championship leaders. The Manthey Porsches are so strong this season, particularly the championship leading in the driver's side. The number 92 took the win in Interlagos after a tough race for the Le Mans winning 91. Looking ahead to this weekend, you said it earlier, the field is really starting to close up in LMGT3. Do you think it's going to be a tricky ask for them to continue that success they've had thus far?
Well, I would say yes normally, but as we saw at Spa, one day they've got an absolutely destroyed car, then next they're on the podium and they're maintaining that sort of level of consistent point scoring. That win in Interlagos was super impressive. I thought Alexander Malikin was really strong. I mean, he's, I think, one of the stories of the season in
Truly,
GT3 yes. in what he's achieving as their lesser categorised driver, as you like. 25 points. That's a nice sort of tidy advantage, isn't it, going into 3 races to go. Yes, there's extra points at Bahrain for the 8 hours. I think in a similar way to the hypercar leaders with the number 6 Porsche, I think if they can come away with a 30-point advantage after COTA, I think then they might think, well, you know, we can start to play the percentage game a little bit, and then if the 91 is not in the battle and the BMW is between them, potentially there could be some orchestration between those two Manthey entries. But there's really strong, healthy respect and I think competition between the two. But I think ultimately it makes sense if there is a gap of beyond sort of 35, 40 points heading into Bahrain, that, you know, then you would play the team game, the squad game with Manthey. But it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, the form at the moment is very much in the corner of those Porsches. But here, it's going to be a big challenge. Lots of factors probably going against them slightly in terms of how they can harness that pace again. But they've surprised us so many times so far this season. So I wouldn't want to sort of just say that they wouldn't be in the game at all here.
Well, BMW and WRT are the other car that's sort of in that driver's fight at the moment, just ever so slightly behind the 91 Manthey on 74 points. I don't really know what to expect from them this weekend, right? That they had a tough one out in Interlagos. They would have liked to have been slightly further up the field, I'm sure. But here, it's a very different style, different expectations. Perhaps it could be a bit of a comeback weekend for them.
Yeah, they'll be looking for that. You know, I think there was disappointment in what was achieved at Interlagos, but again, they still got some reasonable points. So they're still maintaining that sort of level of attack to the Porsches. I think Augusto Farfus and his teammates that have actually been exceptional. I mean, Darren Lung, we talked about people like Alexander Malikin coming into this championship. Darren Lung has got such limited experience, and I think he's been, again, one of the stories of the championship, what he's achieved. I think there's a lot more to come there as well. Obviously a new challenge for him here at COTA. There hasn't been testing as there has in Hypercar, as we said, so a lot of challenges with the tyres. But I don't see why BMW with WRT shouldn't be in the conversation come Sunday afternoon. And again, I think Farfus, such a competitive character, achieved so much in his career. He's got his eyes on really challenging that 92 car for the title, I think.
Now, one of the things I got up to on my summer break was watching Full Access, available now on the WEC YouTube channel. All of the episodes are brilliant, but I did really enjoy the one that just came out in Sao Paulo. And if we're going to talk about the Ferraris, I think we do have to talk about that moment in Full Access.
Yes, it was dramatic, wasn't it? I mean, Yasser Shaheen has been terrific, you know, along with the guys we just mentioned, Darren Lung and Malikin. He's done exceptionally well to come in at this level and get some results. It didn't happen for him in Interlagos, made a mistake heading into turn 1, clattered the back of Thomas' floor, and then Thomas went looking for him and unfortunately didn't find him. So a bit frustrating for Thomas. I don't know if they did have a conversation at the end of that, but yeah, it was unfortunate. Quite rightly, Yasser got a penalty for that, and you know, he'll be hoping to keep his nose clean this weekend because very much still in title contention. But something about that Vista AF Corse car, the 54, they are going to be wanting to come back swinging big time. I don't mean literally in the paddock, I mean actually on the track. And I think Francesco Castellacci, Davide Rigon and Thomas, I think they could be quite strong here this weekend. The Ferrari, it's got that feel of a potential strong circuit for the Ferrari, I think.
Well, the other moment from Full Access we have to talk about is with the Iron Dames. I sort of feel bad that we bring them up every time and they are just consistently having this run of poor luck, things not going their way. Even in ELMS last weekend in Spa, there was just an incident for Sarah Bovey, which meant that Rahal and Michelle didn't even get any seat time in the race. We're sort of questioning, where is the line between bad luck and things that could be fixed within the team? How do they start working on that going forward?
Yeah, well, it's called endurance for a reason, isn't it? It's part of the name of the championship. You've got to be there at the finish. And they've had their fair share of problems, reliability issues this season, heartbreaking for the whole team there. I think it's all the starker when you're on pole position and you're where they were. You know, they were leading that race. Alexander Malikin got ahead of them at the end, but they were still on schedule for a strong podium.
They are so undeniably quick.
They are. All three of them done fantastically well. They feel like they're going to get a big result. I'm sure either here, Fuji or Bahrain, where they've got really good win there last season, of course. But you know, Lamborghini here at COTA, it's a mix, isn't it? It's a real mix of fast swooping corners like the ones we're in at the minute, and it's those sort of traction areas such as out of turn one. It could be a bit of like Ferrari. There could be some good strengths that Lamborghini can use, and the Iron Dames can get a result. But first off, they've got to be reliable.
Well, actually, a sort of similar vein is talking about Corvette and TF Sport. Now, this was a package and a pairing that we really hyped up at the start of the season, and they did start strongly with pole position in Qatar. But since then, we haven't really seen them optimise it. They haven't really been up there. It's a home race for the Corvette. There's going to be a lot of fans of these cars here this weekend. Yeah. What do you think's not been going right so far, and how can that change here at COTA?
I think probably when Tom Ferrier and the sort of senior drivers in that team, Daniel Juncadella and obviously Charlie Eastwood, they got an LMP2 champion as well with Rui Andrade in that car. I think when they look at it, use that summer break to look back on it, I don't think it's anything, one little thing. I think there's a variety of things. It's a new programme for them. A team and a new car gelling often takes half a season, if not a full season, to get the most out of the performance levels and operationally within that squad. You know, they've not been slow, they've been there. Pole position for Tom Van Rompuy, and then you've got some really good performances, particularly Juncadella as well, and Charlie Eastwood have been strong. They will get a result, and you know, we're better to do it here than here at COTA. I think it's they could be again a sort of good dark horse to get their best result of the season so far.
Any other cars we should be looking at this weekend for a result, perhaps? I'm talking Codis, I'm talking United.
Yeah, well, it's going to be great, obviously, to see the Codis, the number 78 car, back in action after that accident for Arnaud Robin, who thankfully emerged okay from that big shunt that he had and ended their weekend. The Alexis, it's shown flashes of performance, flashes of potential, but I don't really see it coming this season. I think it's more of a long-term project for Jerome Policon's team, and I think they'll be stronger in 25 than they have been in 24. You know, we mentioned the D-Station guys. You know, Marco Sorensen's had success here at COTA before. He knows the place inside out. I think that Erwan Bastard and the whole team can really get a reasonable result here. What I think, and we're going to come to predictions shortly. Ooh. But I tell you what, we'll go predictions.
Let's do it now. Why not?
I'm going to go for the 54. I've done it before this season, and it's ended in mishap and tears. But I think Thomas Floor, yes, he's made a few mistakes this season, and I think, you know, people need to give the bronze drivers a bit of slack. If Thomas really drives as he can, and there are no mistakes, he doesn't get clattered by other drivers, I fancy that Vista AF Course Ferrari to be getting the first win for the prancing horse in GT3 this season.
Spoiler for our Hypercar preview. Is that a double Ferrari prediction?
I'm going double prancing horse.
Ooh,
the stable's been kicked open and the prancing horses have escaped. Double win here this weekend.
What a tone to leave it on. Thank you so much, Sam, and thank you for joining us. Like I mentioned, if you haven't seen it, go and check out our Hypercar preview, available on YouTube now, as well as WEC Full Access. It really is worth a watch. If you want to watch all of the action from this weekend, head to FIAWEC.tv, unless you are here in the US, in which case you need to be watching along on Max. But as always, FP3 will be available on our YouTube channel. If you want to follow along with all of the updates from throughout the weekend, head to the WEC social media. And all that's left for me to say is make sure you join us for the post-race debrief on Sunday evening.